Okay, we'll go to the translation. So Krishna here, he is telling Arjuna, he says, as all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Pritha. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Everyone is searching for Krishna in the different aspects of his manifestations. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is partially realized in his impersonal Brahmajyoti effulgence and as the all-pervading supersoul dwelling within everything, including the particles of atoms. But Krishna is fully realized only by his pure devotees. Consequently, Krishna is the object of everyone's realization, and thus anyone and everyone is satisfied according to one's desire to have him. In the transcendental world also, Krishna reciprocates with his pure devotees in the transcendental attitude, just as the devotee wants him. One devotee may want Krishna as the Supreme Master, another as his personal friend, another as his son, and still another as his lover. Krishna rewards all the devotees equally, according to their different intensities of love for him. I would like to stop here because there's many more purports, but this is actually what I would like to focus on. I forgot to chant the Om Namo Bhagavate prayers. Usually we do that before chanting the Bhagavad Gita. But anyway, I'll neatly skipping over it. Once upon a time, there was a great king. And as is custom amongst great leaders in the material world, he wanted to establish his supremacy because he thought himself to be, a mighty protector and someone who's entitled to have the title as the emperor of the world. Right now in the present day, we have such a person who would very much like to have Greenland as his personal property. So he also is trying to establish himself. So we can see that there's a universal tendency amongst leaders that they try to expand their empire. And so whether it's for the sake of actually making an atmosphere of peace and tranquility and righteousness in the world, or if it is just in order to inflate already inflated ego, that is a question that is up for discussion. But this king, his name was Maharaj Sagar. And Maharaj Sagara, this was many hundreds and thousands of years ago in a previous age. And at that time, Vedic culture was all over the world, and there was many kingdoms within the world, but it was custom that there was one Maharaj, one ruler amongst rulers. And if one king, he wanted to establish himself in that position, then he would have to perform what is known as the Ashvamedha Yajna, the horse sacrifice. So Donald Trump, he can take notes. The way that it works is that you have a horse, and then you send this horse to a foreign country where there is another king, he is ruling, and behind this horse, you have your army coming along. So once the horse, he approaches the kingdom, then it is the responsibility of the ruler to respond by either submitting and offering like gifts and accepting the rulership of the one who's performing the Ashvamedha Yajna. But if the person is not subjecting and instead he says, no, I will not accept you as ruler of the world, then there will be war. So Maharaj Sakara, he sent his horse all over the world, and he was almost finished. He had almost, acquired all the countries that he wanted to acquire. But then it so happened that there's one of the demigods, a particular demigod who sometimes we hear about him, that he has a little tendency to become envious. And so this demigod, he's called Indra. He's said to be the king of heaven. And so he's sitting there, comfortably in heaven, enjoying his opulence. And he's looking down at earth and he's like, this Maharaj Sakara, he's a very pious king. He's very dharmic and he's very dutiful and he's very righteous. And now he's also performing the Ashwamedha Yagya and he's collecting a lot of punya. He's collecting a lot of pious credits. So Indra, he was starting to get a little bit worried that maybe he will dethrone me as the king of heaven. So he was thinking, what I'll do is that I'll steal away the horse. Just as he was about to complete the Ashwamedha Yagya, and then Indra, he took the horse. And so he hid the horse in the ashram of a great sage, which is actually said to be an incarnation of the Lord, Kapila Muni. So in Kapila Dev's ashram, he was sitting there in trance and just meditating and being very tranquil. He didn't even notice that, like Indra, he put a horse there. But yeah, he was in trance. And so when Maharaj Sakara, and especially when his sons, who are very proud to be the sons of a great king, they found out that the horse had been stolen. Then they set out to find, where is this horse and who is this rascal who has dared to steal the horse of our father? And they came to Kapila Muni's ashram and they saw Kapila Muni who was sitting there and he was completely absorbed. And they saw the horse. And then they thought to themselves, oh, he's the thief. Here's the rascal who has stolen the sacrificial horse. And because Kapila Muni, he was purity personified. So when the sons of Maharaj Sakara, they started blaspheming him, and it said that from within their own bodies, fire started, which actually burned them to ashes. So you should not offend the saintly personalities. It always backfires. It's not a very good idea. And so now all the 60,000 sons of Maharaj Sakara, they were burned to ashes, and this was a problem. They themselves had sons and descendants, and these sons, this is problematic because we didn't have proper funeral rites for our forefathers, and what do we do in order to make sure that the destination of their souls will be auspicious? And so they inquired from their spiritual master, who said that, well, actually, in order to sanctify their souls, they will need to get purified by the waters of the Ganges River. Now, you have probably all heard about the Ganges River, holy river flowing in India. So you would think that, okay, well, no problem, right? You just go and you collect some water from the Ganges, and then you bring it to the ashes, and you pour a cup, and then it's purified. Problem is, at that time, there was no Ganges River on planet Earth. This is, as a matter of fact, the story about how the Ganges descended onto the world. So it is said that the Ganges River, it was flowing in the celestial planets and the higher planetary systems. And that Maharaj Sakara, in order to get the Ganges to descend, in order to purify his sons, he started to worship and make great sacrifices and perform austerities and offer prayers. And he took a lot upon himself in order to get the blessing and the goodwill of Mother Ganges, that she would bless his kingdom with her presence. And he spent many, many years doing that. And eventually he died, unsuccessful. Ganges never showed up. But he had a very faithful son, Anshuman. And Anshuman, he made it his mission to continue what his father had started. So he spent his whole life in meditation and prayer and sacrifices and austerities, just begging Mother Ganges, please come, please be merciful to my forefathers. But Mother Ganges, he was, I'm taking my time. I'll come when I come. So Anshuman, he died. And he had a son, Dilipa Maharaj. And Dilipa Maharaj, he continued what his father had dedicated his whole life to. But he also died with no success. But his son, Bhagiratha Maharaj, he spent his entire life worshipping Mother Ganges. And at last, Mother Ganges, she gave her blessing. She says, I am satisfied. Now you have worshipped me for 4 generations. That's some serious dedication. So, okay, I will come. But there's a problem, because if the Ganges River is coming from the heavenly planets, it's a massive amount of water which is about to descend onto the world. So it's said that Mother Ganges, she would, upon hitting the world, she would like destroy it. It would be like absolutely like atomized, pulverized into pieces. So she said, I will come, but you have to make sure that I get a soft landing, because otherwise it won't be very auspicious. So then Bhagiratha Maharaj, he set out to get the blessing of Lord Shiva. And so he started worshipping Lord Shiva, and he said, would you kindly come? Because I need someone who is very strong, who's very powerful, who can handle the impact of Ganges on the world. Have you seen pictures of Lord Shiva? Anyone knows what kind of like hairstyle Lord Shiva he's rocking? He has dreadlocks up in a bun, yeah? So he has many sages, they have these like wild dreadlocks. Actually myself, believe it or not, I had dreadlocks as a teenager. I had a phase where I thought that I was a black person. So I was very much into hip-hop music and reggae and stuff like that. And I noticed that if I would wash my hair in the morning, it will stay wet the whole day. So in that way, it makes sense that Lord Shiva, he would present himself and he would receive Mother Ganges and washing his hair at the same time. So Mother Ganges, she descended into the locks of hair of Lord Shiva. So that took the impact, and then it gradually spread and became a current. And at that time, then Bhagiratha Maharaj, he had to dig a ditch in order to make sure that the Ganges, it would flow in a proper direction, in the direction of his ancestors. So he took his chariot, a huge celestial chariot, and he started driving this chariot, and Mother Ganges, she was following very nicely behind, until he eventually came upon the ashes and his ancestors were purified, and he continued his journey all the way to the sea. And that is the story of how Mother Ganges, the holy river, came to be on this planet. Now it's quite interesting that it took 4 generations for Mother Ganges to bestow her mercy upon the descendants of Maharaj Sakara. 4 generations, that's a long time. And we could ask, why was it that she gave this benediction to Bhagiratha Maharaj? Did Dilipa Maharaj, was he not serious? Anshuman, was he not serious? They dedicated their whole lives. So this is an interesting phenomenon that I think is worthy to discuss a little bit. Once upon a time, then the great scientist Isaac Newton, you have heard about Isaac Newton? He said, if I have seen further, it is only because I am standing on the shoulders of giants. So because I have great predecessors, there's great scientists who came before me, who in so many ways mapped out the laws of physics, and because I'm standing on their work, then I can work further, I can expand on that. So the mercy that is descending, in this case, with the descending of Mother Ganges, you can say it's kind of like bringing a pot of water to boil. If you boil water, then it doesn't look very different whether it's like 30 degrees or 50 degrees, right? So you can say when Sakara Maharaj, he was worshipping the Ganges, maybe he brought it to like 25%, right? And then Anshuman, he continued, and he got it to 50%. And Dilipa Maharaj, he then got it to 75%. And then when Bhagiratha Maharaj, he came, all of a sudden he brought it to the boiling point, and then it started bubbling. So, in the same way as Bhagiratha, he was the great grandson of Sakara Maharaj, We have our Srila Prabhupada here. And Srila Prabhupada, in an equal fashion, he tried to attract the blessing of love of God into this world. And he worked with that endeavor wholeheartedly his whole life. And in so many ways, he paved the way. He wrote the books. He translated Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam. He started temples of understanding where people, they can come and learn about the soul, about reincarnation, about God, about our relationship to God as souls. So in so many ways, he made love of God available in the world. But he was also a very ambitious person. And his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, he was a very ambitious person. He said the Krishna consciousness movement, it will be a success when the high court judges, they are wearing Vaishnava tilak. Is it happening? Have you recently seen any high court judges wearing Vaishnava tilak? So what does it mean? Has the mission failed? If the mission will be successful when the high court judges wear tilak, but they're not wearing tilak, that means the mission have failed. No? Not necessarily. It could be that we are in a similar situation as the descendants of Maharaj Sagara. Maybe the boiling point is about to be reached. Who knows where we're at? Maybe we're at 25, maybe we're at 40, maybe we're at 60 or 80%, who knows? But it's very important that we don't stop what was begun. Today is the appearance day of Srila Advaita Acharya. And I would like to speak a little bit about an amazing contribution that he made to the world. So he was living approximately almost 600 years ago, took his birth in India, in West Bengal. And he was a Vaishnava. He was a devotee of the Lord. He lived in a place called Navadvip. And just as in ancient Greece, in Athens, it was considered the capital of philosophy in ancient Europe. In the same way, Navadvip was considered the philosophical Mecca in all of India. So that is where the greatest scholars, they went to study and to teach. And so many very, very famous scholars, they spend their days in Navadvip learning and discussing and philosophizing. And Advaita Acharya, he was one of them. But Advaita Acharya, despite that he was in the capital of knowledge and wisdom, he was quite disappointed with the standard of the scholars. Because he was thinking, these people, they are so intellectual. They have so much knowledge. They have memorized so many books, but they don't understand the essence of the book, which is devotional service, which is to surrender to the Lord with your heart and to engage wholeheartedly in spreading love of God and singing His names and eventually going back home, back to Godhead. People, they were very complacent with their aristocratic titles and with their material wealth, and they were spending so much on weddings and social occasions and a little bit less on genuine devotional service. So Advaita Acharya, he thought, we need a spiritual renaissance. We need nothing less than a revolution. And in order to trigger a spiritual revolution on the planet, we are going to need divine intervention. We need God Himself to descend into the world, to come as a person and to teach by example the way of devotional service. This was predicted in the scripture many thousands of years ago, that in the age of Kali that we are living in, there will be an incarnation of the Lord who will be known as Lord Chaitanya. And so Advaita Acharya, he was thinking, okay, let's go. I will try my best, like Maharaj Sagara, who made the Ganges River descend into the world. I will tirelessly worship the Lord until he descends. And so what he did is that he was studying the scripture in order to find out what is the best way to invoke the mercy of the Lord. And he found one verse where it is said that the Lord, he is very easily satisfied by one who offers the leaves of the tulasi plant. We have behind the curtain here, we have this very nice plant that we are worshiping, which is called Tulasi Maharani. And it's said that this is Krishna's favorite plant. So Advaita Acharya, he was thinking, this is so much easier than doing an Ashwamedha Yagya. Yeah, I don't have to become an emperor of the world and send the horses to all the different countries. No, I can just sit on the bank of the Ganges River and worship my deity with Ganges water and tulasi leaves. And so he was doing that. And while he was doing that, he was chanting the holy names of the Lord incessantly. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. But he was not chanting like that. He was chanting much louder. Anyone really good at chanting loud? Yeah, maybe we can get a demonstration. Anyone can perform what is called the Hunkara chant. That means that you don't sing. You don't chant japa. You don't Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. No. Advaita Acharya, he was doing Hunkara. He was roaring. He was chanting in a state of anger. Srila Prabhupada, he said that we should call upon the Lord like a child crying for his or her mother. Advaita Acharya, he was not in that bhav. He was angry. He was like, you come! And I will not rest until you come. So he was chanting and roaring, and I don't get how he didn't he continued for 13 months, it's described, and he didn't lose his voice. It just became louder and louder and louder and louder. And it is said in the Chaitanya Bhagavat that when Lord Chaitanya, he eventually came, at one point he had a conversation with Advaita Acharya. And he said, my dear Advaita, actually I was sleeping. I was sleeping on the causal ocean. I was so peaceful. I was dreaming so nicely. But then I was hearing this, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And you woke me up. And I couldn't ignore. Because I have given the promise that, okay, you worship me. I say in Bhagavad Gita, Yeyatamam prapadyante tamstataiva pajam yaham mamavat manovartante manusya partha savashaham. As all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. And Advaita Acharya, he worshipped the Lord with single-pointed intention. He wanted the Lord to descend into the world. So how can Krishna ignore? He could not. And he had to come. And we are very fortunate that Advaita Acharya, he made this decision. Because he is like Maharaj Sagar. He made sure that the Ganges, the love of God, would flow into the world. But you kind of have to keep the current running. At that point, it was running in India, but Srila Prabhupada, when he came to the West in 1965, he was like Bhagiratha Maharaj, who was drawing the chariot, who was digging the ditch for Mother Ganges that she would be able to reach every nook and corner in the world. And the job is not finished. There is still so much that needs to be done until we will start to see these high court judges wearing Vaishnava tilak. And luckily, we are a very big family. a big family who can all contribute in digging ditches. Yeah? Digging ditches of mercy so that it will spread and so it will run further. I would like to talk a little bit about one such ditch that we are trying to dig here in Copenhagen. Recently, a couple of months ago, we opened a restaurant in Frederiksberg. Show of hands, how many know? New restaurant, Govinda's Kitchen. Okay. Anyone who has not visited? You please come and you visit. It's a very nice place. But the reason that we are opening a restaurant is not just because we want to make business. We believe that love of God, it moves in different mediums through different containers. For example, we like to take love of God in the container of the holy name and take it to the streets and chant. In that way, people, they can get exposed to love of God, to the holy name. But Srila Prabhupada, he taught us that we have a secret weapon in the Krishna consciousness movement. Because some people, when they, like, I personally like to distribute books. I like to go on the street and talk to people and show them books like Bhagavad Gita and try to convince them that, hey, this is an amazing book. There's so much about the soul and God. And some people, they will buy and they will appreciate. But a lot of people, they say, no, I don't want nothing to do with your religion. And they see us on the street chanting Hare Krishna and they go, cuckoo, cuckoo, cuckoo. So, but they will taste our food. And they will be blown away. And that food is special. It's called prasadam. So it's also a container of love of God. Because it is made by devotees who are in a state of love of God, in a meditative state. Then it is being offered on the altar by a devotee who is in love of God and who is in a meditative state. And then it is served with love by a devotee who is in a state of love of God. So in that way, then it is kind of like a Trojan horse. You know, you kind of break the defense mechanism and you plant that seed of love of God in the heart of the conditioned soul. So that is our secret agenda. That is why we want to start a restaurant here in Copenhagen, because then we can cheat people. We can cheat people to taste. And then once they get a taste, it's over. First time I came here in the temple, this is now 15 years ago, I got cheated. Because just as I was about to leave, I thought it was quite a nice experience, the whole Sunday feast, chanting, dancing, hearing philosophy, eating. I ended up sitting for 2 hours for questions and answers. But just as I was about to leave that night, then one devotee, he came and he said, hey, tomorrow, maybe you will be hungry, right? And I said, I probably will. And he said, we have so many leftovers. Would you like to bring something with you home? And I thought to myself, of course, I would like to bring some free food with me home. So he gave me 2 of these like 5 liters yogurt containers. And it was filled with like rice and dal and sabji and puri and whatnot and like sweets and stuff, halwa and burfi and like whole shebang, like 10 kg. And I ended up eating prasadam that next day, Monday for breakfast, lunch, dinner, Tuesday, breakfast, lunch, dinner, Wednesday, breakfast, lunch, dinner, yeah. And so next Sunday I came again. So I got cheated. So it works like that with prasadam. You get prasadam and then suddenly you start to ask questions. And this is a scriptural fact. It's mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam 11th canto. Satvikanyeva seveta puman sadbhava viritaye tato dharmas tato jnanam yavachmritya pohanam. That a conditioned soul cannot understand anything about spiritual knowledge if you are in the mode of passion and ignorance. You need to be elevated to the mode of goodness. And prasadam, the food that we eat, is elevating the guna, is elevating the consciousness. And once you come to the platform of sattva gun, then it's said that you can start to appreciate religious principles. That's key. First, they will appreciate religious principles. First, they will be hardcore materialists. But all of a sudden, they can appreciate religious principles. That means maybe it's not a dumb thing to get up early in the morning and, meditate and chant mantras. Maybe it's not, maybe I should take a look at this Bhagavad Gita and this whole thing that they're doing with the chanting, and maybe there's something to it. Maybe I should start asking questions. So people, they will first start to appreciate religious principles. And out of that appreciation, transcendental knowledge awakens. They will gradually come to understand that maybe I'm not this body. Maybe I'm a spirit soul. The paradigm will shift. Maybe they will start to inquire. They look up at the stars and all of a sudden maybe there's a God. And that entire journey may start with a single bite of kuleguf. So we want to establish this restaurant in Copenhagen. Now the difficulty is that 90% of restaurants that open up in Copenhagen, they go bankrupt within 5 years. The competition is severe. It's very, very difficult. There's a restaurant every 10 meters, right? There's so much competition. And the rent is sky high. So most, they have a dream and we want to do this project. But then reality hits and sooner or later, they got bankrupt and they have to close. We would very much like to try to nip it in the bud and avoid that happening. So therefore, could you kindly? I would like to see a show of hands. If Srila Prabhupada, he is our Maharaj Sakara, who in the crowd is willing to be a Bhagirath? Come on! Otherwise, then I'll have Mataji do the hunkara on you. So, we made a flyer. And we just now printed 2,500 of these. That's just beginning. But we have agreed with the manager of Govinda's restaurant that you can come at the restaurant and you can get a bundle of 100 flyers, and then you can run around and distribute those in the neighborhood, put them in people's mailboxes, try enter into an apartment building, and then you go and or you can go under windshield wipers, and people, they will go, oh no, I got a parking ticket. And then they see, oh, it was a flyer for a restaurant. Okay, well, that's not too bad. So, and if you go and you get a bundle of these 100 flyers and you distribute them, you get a free meal. Who would be interested in such an endeavor? Nice to see. Nice to see. So, we will test. This month, we are printing 2,500. But the funny thing, Lalitanath Prabhu and I were just sitting on the internet the other day, and we were looking at printing flyers. And it's kind of funny with how the prices, they work. How much do you think it costs printing 10 flyers? 10 such flyers. What do you think you'll have to pay for that? Any guess? 200 kroner. For 10 flyers. So how can we afford 2,500? No, but the more that you buy, the cheaper it gets. How much do you think that it costs to buy 2,500 flyers? 1,000 kroner. Yeah. So that's an investment. But how much do you think it will then cost to print 10,000 flyers? 2,000 kroner. How much? Okay, so that's so much better. Yeah, sorry, I got the math wrong. But if we print 10,000 flyers, we need to have an army to distribute them. So we are counting on your support. And let's make a yakya. Let's be like followers of Maharaj Sakara. Let's get the Prasadam Ganges to hit Copenhagen and to hit it hard. So we can all contribute by digging ditches.